Part 3 of timber frame design using SketchUp. This is brought to you by Big Beams Timber Frames in upstate New York. And in this session, you will learn to add joinery to components. We'll be starting with the model that we drew in our previous tutorial, and we will end up with this right here, which is the same model but with appropriate joinery. So let's go back to where we left off. The tools that you will learn to use during this tutorial are the Move Copy tool, which is over here, the Orbit tool, which is this one here, the Pan tool, which is the little hand, the Rectangle tool, which we used in the previous tutorial, the Push-Pull tool, which we also used in the last video, the Tape Measure tool, and the Line tool we will also be using, which is over here, and of course the Select tool. The skills that you'll learn during this video are, first off, to make joinery components. We'll also learn how to use X-ray mode, a feature called Paste in Place, and a feature called TF Create Joint. That is only available if you have downloaded the timber frame extensions from the extension warehouse, which was described in the first video in this series. We'll also be using the Hide and Unhide feature. I do want to point out that all the joinery we are drawing in this video will be centered. That's a little bit different than if you were doing square rule layout, where you would draw joinery a specific distance from a specific reference face. We're going to keep things simple, and we're going to center all of our joinery in this video. So let's get started. So the first thing we need to do, if we want to put a tenon on the top of this post that extends up into the plate, and a tenon on the bottom that extends down into the foot of the trestle pony. So one way you could do this is you could click on this, and then you could go up to Edit, Hide, and that would make that disappear, and then you could draw joinery on the bottom of this. That becomes a little bit challenging when you forget what you have hidden and what you have actually deleted, so we're going to do a different option. So I'm going to unhide that. The way we're going to do things is we're going to make a copy of this post and just drag it out here in space, and then add joinery to it. Since it's a copy of it, whatever we do to the one that we pull out here will also happen to the one that's within the model. And since this post was a copy of this, anything we change to either of those posts will automatically be updated on the other post. This is one of the reasons why we put the joinery in the center on everything. So I'm going to go over to my Move Copy tool. I'm going to hover over that post. Remember, it's very important to click Control, and you'll see a plus sign show up. That means I've made a copy, so I hold my left mouse button down and drag out, and I've made a copy of it. So I'm going to use either my Orbit tool, and then hold my left mouse button down and then just drag. That allows me to orbit. Or on my mouse, I have a wheel. And so as I roll that wheel, that will zoom in or out. Or if I hold the wheel down and move the mouse, then I can orbit as well. So I'm going to zoom in. And what I want to do, I house all my joinery. So I'm going to house this 1 inch, which is a little bit of overkill. You could do it 1/2 inch, but I'm just trying to keep things as simple as possible. So I'm going up to my Rectangle tool. I'm going to click on it. Now notice I have not opened this component. It's just the way it is. So I'm going to go over to one corner. I'm going to find my corner point. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and slide diagonally to the far corner. And if you look in the dimensions box in the bottom right corner, you will see it says 6 inches by 4 inches, and I'm going to let up. I basically put a rectangle on top of that post. Now I'm going to use my Push-Pull tool, and I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and drag up and type 1 inch, and that has extruded that 1 inch basically. Now I want my tenon to be centered on that. So I'm going to go back to my tape measure tool, and I want to find the center. So if I go to this, remember the circle shows you the center of that line. I'm going to click it once and then slide across that face. But if I follow this edge, it'll snap to the center. Boom, right there. And you'll see it's at 2 inches. So I click. So I've drawn a guideline in the middle of it. Now I want this tenon is going to be 1.5 inches thick. So I'm going to grab this line. Now you may wonder why I'm out here grabbing the line rather than grabbing it in here. The problem with grabbing it in here is sometimes it clicks on things you don't want. So if I'm out here in space and I grab it, it's just easier to grab what I want to grab. So I'm going to click it once, come back over here, and I'm going to drag along this line. Now I want it to be an 1.5 inch tenon. So I'm just drawing 1/2 of that. So I'm going to type 0.75 inches and then enter. And then I can either grab this again and go this way 0.75. Or the other way I could have done it is I could have just gone to this line and dragged from the far line 1.5. I'm now going to get rid of the middle line. And so we're going to use the line tool. I'm going to click that. And remember, I want the X. I'm going to grab that and then just drag it along here till I find my other X and click. And I'm going to come down here to the X, click, drag my mouse, click. I'm going to go to push-pull. I'm going to hover over the center, hold my left mouse button down and slide upward. And I'm going to type 4 inches. What I've done now is I have made a 1-inch housing and a 4-inch tenon. So that's a total of 5 inches. And this plate is 6 inches tall. So I'm still going to have 1 inch of material above that. I'm going to get rid of these guides just to clear things up a little bit. Now this is one of the most important skills of this tutorial, is how to turn this into a joint. So we made the post a component in our previous tutorial. We now need to make this joint a component. So I'm going to triple click on the joint. You'll see that it just highlights the joint only, not the post. Now I'm going to right click, make component. I'm going to name it. I'm just going to go post 1 top tenon. Oops. Looks like I got a little ZZ Top going on there. Top tenon. Now this is different. When I'm putting joinery in, I have to take more steps. So I'm going to go down to the glue to, and I'm going to click the down arrow and I'm going to select any. Now I need to set component axis. This is going to tell the joint how it's going to attach to the post. So I click this and then I come over to the corner and I pick a point. I'm not starting out here. I'm starting at a point that's in between 2 other points. So in between this one and in between this one. So I'm going to click it once and let up. And I'm going to go grab this corner and click and let up. Then I'm going to come over to this corner and click. And then and one of the things that you'll notice is that there's this gray shaded area, which should be on the plane that you're attaching your joint. So I'm going to click create, and it will create a joint. This seems a little counterintuitive, but follow me. I'm now going to come up and I'm going to go edit, cut. Then I'm going to triple click the post. And now I'm going to go edit, paste in place. And then this is very important. I'm going to hover over the joint and I'm going to right click and I'm going to come down TF create joint. You cannot do that unless you've downloaded the TF, the timber framing extensions package from the extension warehouse. So that was taught in tutorial number 1. So now I'm just going to click outside there. One of the things you'll notice now is if you look at the model itself, you'll see this housing is already there. Since I did it to this post, which was a copy of this post, and this post is a copy of this post, you'll see I also added it here. So just to check to make sure that that joinery is there, I can go up to View and down to Face Style and click X-ray, and you can see that those tenons are both in there as well as their housings. So I'm going to shut that X-ray face down because it gets a little bit hard to follow. Now this is a little bit different because this tenon is only going to be 1.5 inches. The tenons on the bottom of the posts are going to be 2 inches thick. Now, normally I try to keep all my joinery the same thickness, as a known distance from a reference face. But because this 4x6 has the 4-inch dimension on the side face, where you're going to want to put 2 pegs, because otherwise it becomes wobbly this way, we want to make that tenon as thick as we can. So we're going to go 2 inches. So I'm still going to come back to this, and I'm going to follow the same procedure, but this time I'm going to put a tenon on the bottom, but it's, instead of going in this direction, it's going to go in this direction. So same deal. I need to draw a rectangle on the bottom. This over in the dimension box in the bottom right corner, it says 6 inches, 4 inches. Click. Going to push pull 1 inch. And now I need to use my tape measure tool, and I start on one edge at the midpoint. I slide along here till it's at the midpoint, 3 inches. I can grab this and then pull back this way. This time I'm going to go 1 inch rather than 0.75 because I want my tenon to be a total thickness of 2 inches. I'm going to get rid of middle line. I'm now going to use my line tool. Connect. Remember, you want to be able to see the X's to know your exact section. I'm going to go push pull. I'm going to grab just the center, drag it down 4 inches. I'm going to delete guides, and I'm going to follow it. I'm going to go back to my select tool. I'm going to follow the same procedure to create this joint. So I triple click the tenon, then I right click, make component. I give it a name. Then I go down to glue to any, and I set my component axis. Again, I'm going to start at a point that's in the middle rather than starting here. So I start here, I click once, I slide my mouse over, click a second time, and slide my mouse over here, click that, and I create it. Now I'm going to cut that tenon, triple click the post, and then edit, paste in place. And then I'm going to right click, create joint. And there it is. Here's the benefit of doing the create joint step. And this is really one of the most powerful things about the TF Rubies, the extensions that create. By doing that, by calling that a joint, I only have to draw the tenon and the housing. I do not have to draw the mortise. When I create that tenon as a joint, it automatically pastes a matching mortise in the foot of the trestle pony. So just to show you what that looks well, let's go back to X-ray view. And yep, you can see you've got your tenons in there, top and bottom. The only ones we still for the tie beam. I'm going to take just a quick diversion here. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to go to my new style. Now I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to make drawing, which will be in our next 2 tutorials. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go TF shop, and you'll see that this comes up. It's going to. But what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to show you that it automatically shows you that it pasted a matching mortise in that post. We'll get to that later on, so I'm going to cancel that and get it out of there. So the next thing we need to do is draw tenons on the ends of the tie beam, and we're going to get a little tricks. We're going to use move copy. We're going to hit control so that it has the plus sign. We're going to drag this out here. One of the things that you'll notice in the finished model is the joint for this tenon has a shoulder. It's called a diminished haunch. So instead of making this a full 1 inch housing, it's very common on tie beams to just house bottom so that the load can sit on more than just the tenon. It rests on the shoulder as well, which makes it much stronger. So we are removing less material. And this is actually a very simple cut to make. It looks more challenging than this. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's a little bit more complicated than the last one. So I'm going to go back to the other model, and I'm going to go to my rectangle tool, grab this corner, and then drag down. Yep, 6" by 4" in my dialog box. Click it. I'm going to pull it out 1 inch. I'm going to follow basically the same procedure to put the tenon on there. I'm going to grab my tape measure tool. These are only going to be 1.5" again. So I'm going to find the center. I'm going to grab that line and come back 3/4 of an inch, or 0.75 inch. By the way, you don't have to type 0.75. For instance, if I'm doing this one, I can type 3/4 inch, and that works the same way. I'm going to get rid of that center line. I'm going to draw a line here. Again, remember, this is not good enough. I want to see that X. So I keep moving my mouse till I got the X, and I click till I have the matching X. Again, I'm going to keep just kind of wiggling. See, it wants to grab the midpoint. So if I actually kind of rotate this a little bit, it should be easier to get my X. And then I'm going to push-pull this 4 inches. And I'm going to come around. I'm going to delete my guides. So this is really neat. So now I'm going to draw that angled shoulder. So I have a 1 inch housing, a 4 inch tenon. I want to use my line tool, grab here. I won't get an X here because it's an endpoint. And I'm going to come down here. And now I can go to my push-pull tool. And if you'll notice, I'm just getting that little polka dot pattern just on that little slice. I hold my mouse button down, I push it inward, and it shoves it out of the way. Now I have this line here I want to get rid of, so I go back to my select tool, and I hover over and click that line, and then hit delete, and that's gone. I'm now going to go over to the other side and repeat the process with my line tool. I'm going to start here, I'm going to go to this corner, and I'm going to push this in, and it'll automatically set distance. And there you have it. Now, if you look, you have the right joint. But because I want to paste this in, I want to kind of find a corner. So I want to get to this point. So I'm going to triple click this, right click, make component. I'm going to glue to any. I'm going to set my axis. Now I don't want to grab this one because that's the want to here, click once, slide up, here, click once, then here, click, and I've created. Now I'm going to cut that. I'm going to triple click the tie beam, and then I'm going to go edit, paste in place, and then I'll hover over the joint, and I'm going to right click, create, and it's that simple. Now I did it to one side, we now need to do it to the other side. So I'm just putting around. I'm going to use my rectangle tool, click those corners, 6 inches, 4 inches. I'm going to use my push-pull tool, go 1 inch. Use my measure tool, click on the center, and then go until I find the other center. I'm going to grab that line and pull it back this way. I'm going to go 3/4 inch. Let's do something different here. I'm going to start with the outside one, and I'm going to go in. I know that I want that to be 1.5 inch, so I'm going to go 1.5 inch. It's the same thing as pulling 3/4 from the center. I'm going to get rid of the middle one. Grab my X. I'm going to keep moving around until I get that X. That really makes things the way we want them. Sometimes they can be off. I'm going to grab my push-pull tool. I'm going to go 4 inch. Enter. I'm going to delete my guide to clean things up a little bit. Now I want to put that angle on here, so I'm going to use my line tool. Grab here and come to here. Push, pull. That on. Select tool. Get rid of that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And now I need to create that joint, so I'm going to rotate till I can find a corner piece or an intersection piece. See, notice how I thought I triple click, but it only just double click because just this face is highlighted in blue. So I'm going to click outside there. Try that again to make sure I got it right. I'm going to right click, make component. I'm going to call this tie beam 10 and 2. Glue to any, set my axis. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to fit up there, which gives me the plane. I'm going to hit create, edit, cut, triple click the component to open it, edit, paste in place, right click, PF create joint. And you will notice that this is, I can delete this now. You'll notice that that is there. Over to our X-ray view. You'll see that all of the joinery is there. We haven't done pegs yet, but the joinery is there. So this concludes our third video in the series where we have created joinery. So we hope you enjoy that. Stay tuned for part 4, where we will be adding pegs to this, and then there'll be a part 5 where we get into making shop drawings.